This one was nicknamed Fat Man and was even more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb.
Pac-Man?
Its original target was the city of 𝐭𝐬𝐬, but
Reapers, what's is good? It's your boy Laser. You do the scary HBO. You have the scary content. So I continue to live having eyes in this arena. Hiroshima and Nagasaki nuclear attacks, first atomic bombing in history. Guys, nuclear attacks, the radiation, oh man, reduction, the reaction content. You saw reaction videos, features, button. You subscribe to the notification bell icon. I'll stream daily on Twitch, I'll stream music, side by side streams, video.
A short time ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima and destroyed its usefulness to the end.
Something so eerie about black and white footage, man. The chills down my body flesh and my pee-pee. Literally, like, that shit's horrifying. I'm scared.
The Japanese began the war from the air at Pearl Harbor. They have been repaid many-fold,
Is that the
and the
radiation?
end is not yet. If they do not now accept our terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth.
on the 6th of August 1945, at the end stages of World War II, the United States of America conducted the first ever nuclear attack in history on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. 3 days later, another more powerful bomb was dropped on the nearby city of Nagasaki, and the combined damage of the two A-bombs was severe enough to force Japan's emperor to surrender. Had he not, the US's Operation Downfall was to be deployed, which was estimated to have caused 1 million US and 10 million Japanese casualties. First, let's go back to the creation of the atomic bomb. It began in the early stages of World War II in 1939, when Albert Einstein voiced his concerns in a letter to the United States President Franklin Roosevelt that the Germans had the capability of building a nuclear bomb.
Einstein, is that you?
This was one of several letters that Einstein sent to Roosevelt, urging him to consider the construction of a similar weapon. In 1941, Roosevelt agreed for the US to fund the project, and the work on the bomb's creation was started. On July the 16th, 1945, 3 months after Roosevelt had died and was succeeded by Harry Truman, the first ever nuclear weapon was detonated in an isolated and uninhabited desert in New Mexico called the Trinity Test Site. The test was a success, and the US now had the ability of creating a weapon capable of inflicting devastating damage. Fast forward a few weeks to August the 5th, 1945, and an American B-29 bomber named Enola Gay, after the pilot Colonel Paul Tibbets' mother, was being prepared for a mission that would bring hell to Japan. For several months before this, the US had dropped more than 63 million leaflets across Japan, warning civilians of air raids and telling them to surrender. They had not, and an atomic bomb called Little Boy was to be dropped on Hiroshima.
Ah yes, the irony. Ah yes, little boy, little boy. Little boy. Little boy, I drop in my toilet every night. This is little boy. I can't imagine big boy. Bigger, right? No, smaller. Ah yes, they gotta call the big one little boy. I love that. It's kind of like, you know, the aggressive dogs.
Giving the country no other choice but to surrender. President Truman ordered the military to drop the bomb as soon as weather conditions were suitable, and on the morning of August 6, 1945, at approximately 8:15 a.m., the weather conditions were perfect, and the Enola Gay, piloted by Tibbets and 11 other crew members, flew over Japan and dropped the Little Boy over the people of Hiroshima. The bomb was released by parachute and exploded around 2,000 feet above the ground for maximum damage, yielding approximately 15 kilotons of TNT. The blinding light of the initial explosion was followed by a surface temperature of around 6,000 degrees Celsius, and everything in a 1-mile radius, apart from a few concrete earthquake-resistant buildings, were completely obliterated. An estimated 80,000 people were killed instantly, and with 90% of the city wiped out, many of the survivors outside the initial blast radius were trapped in burning buildings and died when help could not reach them. It was reported that the co-pilot of the Enola Gay, Robert Lewis, looked down at the destruction from the aircraft and said, "My God, what have we done?"
Imagine being one of those people, man. It's like, you know, you're about to just get that radiation poisoning, and then have you seen the effects of what it does to you? Ruins your entire existence.
In order to save his country, the Japanese emperor had to surrender. Apparently he did after the Hiroshima bomb, but did not officially announce this, and the US dropped a second bomb on the city of Nagasaki 3 days after the Hiroshima attack. This one was nicknamed Fat Man and was even more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb.
Pac-Man?
Its original target was the city of Kokura, but with weather conditions and visibility not suitable, the mission was changed to the secondary target of Nagasaki. Less than a second after detonation, the north of the city was completely destroyed, and 40,000 people were dead. If not for Nagasaki's uneven terrain reducing the blast, the damage radius would have been much worse, but still, for both the bombs, glass was broken up to 12 miles away from the initial impact. Initially, the bombing of Japan and resulting surrender by them prompted American soldiers to celebrate, and they were seen dancing and drinking in the wake of the attacks, relieved that they had survived the war. But as the weeks passed, the gruesome details of the attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki began to emerge. At this point in time, no one really knew the after effects these bombs would have, and pictures started to appear in newspapers featuring survivors with horrific burns and life-changing injuries. The realization of what a nuclear attack was capable of was released to the world. Those that survived the initial explosion of both cities were left walking the streets surrounded by ruin and death. The cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were flattened and completely unrecognizable. Cemeteries and trees were uprooted, historical buildings destroyed, and the hospitals were blown to pieces, meaning the injured were left to wander the streets, often with children, as aid was not immediately available.
Just a bunch of debris.
In the days and months that followed, tens of thousands of people, many of which were outwardly unharmed, started to feel the effects of radiation exposure. The immediate symptoms included nausea, hair loss, and bleeding, and the long-term effects resulted in horrifying cataracts, tumours, and an increased susceptibility to leukemia.
This is horrible.
To make matters worse, President Truman had insisted that only military targets be hit, not women or children, but this of course was not the case. Around 65% of those affected by both attacks were 9 years of age and younger.
Can you imagine being 9, bro? You die by this?
10 years after the attacks, the long-term effects suffered by the atomic bomb survivors became apparent. In 1956, there was a significant increase in cancer cases, and it was reported that 1,900 cancer deaths were a direct result of the after effects of the two bombs. However, the Japanese community proved very resilient.
Like, slow too. Slow, but fuck that.
And over the years, they rebuilt their two cities. Today, Hiroshima and Nagasaki are bursting with life, with pedestrian malls and high-end department stores. The streets are lined with high-rise buildings, green parks, and avenues. The country is thriving, and despite having a modern military, it maintains it would only be used for self-defense and peacekeeping, and they have also renounced their right to declare war. But going back to 1945, what was President Truman's reasoning behind the attacks in the first place? It's a debated argument, but its main purpose was to bring the war to an end and prevent the invasion of Japan, which would have caused many American casualties. Other possible motives are that it was to justify the $1.8 billion project that was made to create the atomic bombs, or that it was in retaliation to Pearl Harbor. Truman once responded to a question about the bombings with these words: "When you have to deal with a beast, you have to treat him as a beast." Regardless of the motives, just thinking of those 2 days and the many years after the 6th and 9th of August 1945, it's hard to imagine the experience the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki must have endured, in what was the first, and we can all pray, the last, nuclear attack in history.
Like picking the skin, like nasty. Ugh. Well guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, watch the